What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video, and in this one, I'm going to be talking about the one and only Tesla stock and what you should be looking out for the future. I'm also going to break down a more macro perspective on Tesla and talk about the next upcoming weeks because we have some very big dates coming out that will have a very big effect on Tesla and the market. Now, before I break anything down about Tesla and do a big analysis of Tesla and SPY and their relationship, I do have to mention a couple of things before starting. Firstly, I'm not a financial planner. Don't take any of this as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire Tesla community as a whole. And the last things, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, you're guaranteed up to 12 free stocks, each worth up to $2,000. And the best part is, any of these 12 free stocks could be a free Tesla share. It's a limited time offer. The offer ends in just 2 days. Check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. So looking at Tesla, there's one thing I want to note that's very important. That's the fact that the market tends to be very correlated. Is it always correlated every single day? No, but it tends to be that way, right? On most days, the market tends to move in unison. I'm looking at the market from this perspective. Look at the comparison between Tesla and the SPY. And what's interesting about it is when you do this comparison, SPY tends to be correlated with like the NASDAQ and the QQQ. And that's the reason why when you compare them, they tend to be very, very connected. So I think I could also look at like the QQQ, for example. I'm not sure if this is going to work. But looking at Tesla and the QQQ, for instance, heavy connection right here, right? You guys can see how similar the market tends to move. Now, recently, when it comes to kind of like forecasting Tesla, it's a little bit tricky because there's some instances where Tesla has a very high price pairs ratio, which just means that Tesla has a lot of relative strength. That means that Tesla pushes up like super hard from small moves from like SPY, the NASDAQ, and the QQQ. And there are other times when the SPY, the NASDAQ, the market, they kind of like outperform Tesla. And that is what has been happening recently. But right now, Tesla is starting to show like more signs of strength than before. If you look at the price price ratio. So the question is, what's going on with Tesla? Where is this thing going to go over the next few weeks? This is what I want to kind of like forecast. So for the short term, there's clearly a strong uptrend. Tesla showing some pretty decent volume. And the first thing we really want to notice right off the bat, what I mentioned in my previous video, was if we get a clean break above 230, break 230, and this thing has the potential to approach 238, right? And that's where this whole gap is right here, this big gap. And the zone I'm going to be watching as a critical zone is this 238 to 240 level right here over the next couple of days. Now, here's the thing about this rally. I don't know if Tesla's going to run to like 240, then get a big rejection because of FOMC, or if we're going to continue going. And that's why we need to go over the two most likely possibilities. So on SPY, there's a very interesting trend we could actually see. I kind of mapped out some potential trend lines you could use. We have kind of like a very similar trend to what we've seen from before. And this is a descending, broadening wedge. So the wedge is getting wider and wider, and it's descending simultaneously. We have a midline right here, which you can also use. And I kind of drew this out pretty quickly, guys, so I apologize if it's not perfect, but you just have to get the main point. So look at this trend on SPY. This is SPY, by the way. All right, we have this trend where we go near the midline, we come down, we push to the top line. All right, remember these lines could be support and resistance levels. They could also be used for more in-depth analysis. We touch the bottom line, we push up to the midline area. See lots of chop around here. Then we come down to the lower trend line. We finally push up to the midline again, get another rejection. Then we break to the top line. All right. Then it becomes much more different. We come very close to the bottom line, come to the midline, back to the bottom line, back to the top line. Big breakout. This is what we saw in August when the market had a big breakout. Then we start coming down, right? We retest the midline. We come down, form like a double bottom like formation, and we get a big breakout, and we actually break above the whole midline, just like this. So now, based off this trend, notice how there was one touch, a big drop, right? Another touch of the upper trend line, big drop, another touch during these rallies, big drop. And now the real question is, can we push up over the next, like, I don't know, 2 weeks and retest this upper trend line, which in my opinion could take us to about like 412 on the SPY, for instance. That was like what I found before. I know the line's a little bit off. It's showing like 413. It's actually supposed to be like 412. So around like 412, could we actually see a big pop to that zone? The answer is it depends. All right. There are two main possibilities that I'm looking out for. This will affect Tesla. I'm going to show you how this may affect Tesla in a few minutes. We have November 2nd being FOMC. If Jerome Powell comes out, he's super hawkish. He talks about how the Fed is not going to pivot anytime soon. He has a very serious stance when it comes to things. He's very hawkish, right? The market is not going to like that. And if he simultaneously says inflation is too high, the Fed's going to give us a 75 basis point hike again, maybe like in December, for instance. If he says any hints of these things, the market could theoretically reverse. That is the only thing that's making me a little bit apprehensive when it comes to this whole midterm rally. Now, we are approaching midterms. Remember, they're going to be November 8th. Many people think that the market might just continue to pump for another like 2 weeks. Very possible. But in order for that to happen, the FOMC meeting on November 2nd cannot cause the market to flip or like see a big, big reversal. That's what needs to happen. Let me make this simple. Okay, SPY is pushing up just like this. Let me close that. What the heck are these ads? Sorry about that. Okay, SPY is pushing up. Tesla's pushing up with SPY. If you want to see this retest of this upper trend line, in order for that to happen, we have to continue pushing. How are we going to continue pushing? Well, FOMC is coming. We have to actually not see the market get a big reversal. We have to hold up and continue to rally from there. We could see some chop and some like somewhat of a like retracement. That's completely fine. But I'm talking about a straight up reversal. So there are two possibilities. One of them is we pump up to maybe like this 400 range. It could happen pretty quickly, approaching FOMC. Maybe a little lower. Who knows? The first possibility is Jerome Powell comes out during FOMC. He's super, super hawkish. He says things the market doesn't like, and we get a big reversal, just like this. And the market starts coming down again, just as many people were anticipating. We retest the mid trend line and kind of like continue from there. That's the first possibility. All right. Now, how high does the SPY go? I mean, we could get stopped out at like 395, but if we keep pushing, we could go to like 408, for example. And that would be kind of extreme. I mean, let's just not talk about 408. Let's just talk about 400 for now. This is the first possibility. The second possibility is the market continues to rally. Let's just say FOMC comes, Jerome Powell says a couple things. They may cause some like sideways action here and there, but then the market does not care. We just continue to rally and rally for another week, and we end up approaching that 412 zone, right? Just like this. If that's the case, it's very possible we get another rejection off this, and then we start coming down a little bit later, approaching like mid-November, getting closer to like December. Who knows if it's going to be like a straight up crash like this, or if we just slowly come down. I'm not going to predict that. I just want to talk about where we could run to. And these are like the two main possibilities that I am seeing in my opinion. It doesn't make sense for the market to just continue going. What I could do now is just change the color. Let's use blue. All right. All right. Um, so how we go and where we move depends on FOMC and the midterm rally. All right. If the midterm rally continues after FOMC, the market's going to continue pushing up, in my opinion, for another maybe like 2 weeks, a week and a half at least, and we could see 412 on SPY. If that's not the case, if we get a big reversal after FOMC, based off what Powell says, it could actually see a reversal much sooner, which is why you have to be very cautious in this market. What does this mean for Tesla? Well, I mentioned the correlation between Tesla and the QQQ, and also Tesla and the SPY. All right, because this doesn't just affect the SPY. The whole market is going to run in a very similar manner. We can see right here, very similar trends in the market. This means for Tesla, I can't predict exactly where we're going to run to because it's dependent on relative strength. Now, if the SPY is going to fill its gap, Tesla happens to have a gap up here, maybe Tesla's not as strong as before because right now relative strength is not that great on Tesla, or this thing could just suddenly out of nowhere get insane strength and we start pumping to the upside. So if we pump up approaching FOMC, all right, and we get a big rejection, there's a possibility that Tesla's going to do something like this. Let me first get this to look a little bit better. So just remember this zone right here, the 238 gap zone. If the first possibility I mentioned is what happens, Tesla could just get a huge pump like this. And this is actually just the daily time frame, so the volatility is not that great. We might rally to like the 240s approaching FOMC, and then we might get a rejection. Remember, this is just the first possibility. It does the kind of trade sideways and starts to come down a little bit from there. Even if we go into like midterms, this is just one possibility if the market does end up reversing because of Powell, right? That's the first possibility. However, if we aren't going to see a trend reversal approaching FOMC, if Powell just says a few things that are not as hawkish, if there's more news to kind of like spark the flames for the thesis, the narrative that the Fed is getting ready for a pivot and the Fed is not as hawkish, for example, it is possible that the midterm rally will continue approaching like November 8th, maybe a little bit after that. So we could have another 2 weeks of very, very beautiful bullish price action. The second possibility would be something like this, where, let me see, Tesla appears to have, is this a gap? It's not really a gap, but we do have uh, a previous resistance level that Tesla could go to. So let's just say after FOMC, Tesla comes down just a little bit back to like maybe like I don't know, 234, 235, who knows, 237, whatever. We come down, then we keep pushing for another few weeks. We just go and go and go, and we can see Tesla hit like the 250s, very possible, maybe even 260, who knows. But I'm going to try to be a little bit conservative. We could see a move like this, and then get a small rejection after that if the market does reverse, approaching like mid-November, right? I want to just make that as clear as possible. These are like the two main possibilities that I was mentioning. Let's make this one blue and this one, hold on, let's make this white. So I can't really put Tesla and SPY side by side doing this. It's going to be too messy. Remember SPY, all right, this represents the whole market. QQQ and NASDAQ are going to follow this trend. And this is like, in my opinion, the most probable thing that we could see. I anticipate a continuation of the push to the upside for the markets for the first 2 days of next week, approaching Wednesday, which is FOMC. If the reversal comes, we're going to see a move like this probably. If not, if the midterm rally is going to continue, the blue line is likely what's going to happen. And there's no telling if we're going to see a huge rejection like that. If not, I mean, it's just this whole like drop part. This is just hypothetical, so don't worry too much about how low we go. It's more about where the top is, and historically, that is what tends to happen in the SPY. You guys can see these rejections off the upper trend line. Tesla is going to be correlated most likely to this. All right, so I'm going to be watching very carefully this 238 to 240 zone. Watch that very carefully. If Tesla gets a clean break above that, we might approach that into like FOMC, for instance. And over the next like 2 weeks, if we keep pumping, Tesla could go to like 250. If Tesla shows, let me just show you guys this, a big increase in the price pairs ratio. You guys see how there are moments where it goes up and down? This is relative strength. If Tesla shows way more relative strength, all right, it becomes very strong, gets lots of volume, it starts to squeeze. This thing could keep going for a gap fill in the next 2 weeks. If we get the second possibility, we could see this thing hit the 260s. As crazy as that sounds, it's very, very possible. This thing could just run to the moon temporarily before getting like another rejection from there. All right, so these are just the two main possibilities, like I mentioned. Please watch your charts very carefully, and please be ready for the FOMC meeting. It's going to be huge. for Tesla, for the markets, everything is going to be shaken by it. All right. And I personally don't like to give financial advice. I'm not giving financial advice in any way, but I must note that I personally am not going to be like holding things overnight when it comes to FOMC. I'm going to just watch the chart during that time. I'm going to be very cautious, guys, because the market could switch directions in an instant when Jerome Powell speaks. The Fed is going to be pretty silent for Monday and most of Tuesday for next week. So I see potential for us to continue rallying. Where we go after that is very dependent on the meeting and whether or not the midterm rally continues. That's what I have for this one, guys. These are my like short term or maybe like medium term projections for Tesla. Be calm, cool, and collected. Be ready. Enjoy your weekend, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Tesla to the moon because the long term future is still incredibly bright. And peace out.